Welcome today to SZABIST Forum. You know, SZABIST has this series of lectures that we regularly do, bringing in distinguished speakers, lecturers who are experts in their own domains to share their knowledge and experiences with the student. But today particularly, the day is very important because today it is the Shaheed Zulfikar Ali Bhutto commemorative lecture. Those of you who know, today is the birthday of Shaheed Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, and the Institute SZABIST, of course, are synonymous, named after the great founder of democracy in Pakistan. Particularly for the younger generation, I will not go into the details of what Shaheed Bhutto's contribution towards Pakistan was, but let me just mention a few. That he was the first democratically elected Prime Minister of Pakistan. He was the first one who showed democracy into Pakistan. And if you were to look into hundreds of contributions that he had made into the daily life of us Pakistani citizens and commoners, I would perhaps identify the top 5, these are my personal views, as the following. He gave Pakistan the 1973 Constitution, which was the first constitution that was unanimously passed by the Parliament. When I use the word unanimously, there was no discrepancy, there was no dissent, there was no walkout. Every single political party that was represented in the first free and fair elections in Pakistan assented to the Constitution, which has never happened before almost in the history of any country. So that was, I think, his first major contribution, his very first step that he did when he took power in Pakistan. When he took power, of course, the country was broken in two parts. We no more had what we called as East Pakistan. So the majority share had broken away, and we were left with the minority if you count the population. And with that, from what was left of Pakistan, we had lost about 5,000 square miles of our territory to India, and we had over 90,000 prisoner of wars, which not just included military, but it also included a large population of civilians, including women and children. So starting off at a losing end, Shaheed Zulfikar Ali Bhutto successfully negotiated both the return of land and the return of the prisoner of wars without giving anything back to India in return. I think it was quite a major achievement. To that extent that at one time, India and Bangladesh wanted to push for the war trials of our military, which were prisoners in Indian camps. Then the third major contribution of Shaheed Bhutto, which continues on to the present day, is our relationship with China. I mean, he was the first person who opened up our borders and our economy and our trade and our diplomatic ties with China, when China at that point was considered a communist country and a typical no-no for the first world, particularly when Pakistan was a member of both SEATO and CENTO, which is like a NATO type of alliance that was in South Asia or in Central Asia. So opening up the borders, and we therefore provided the road, the bridge, the link between the United States and China. So we played a very major role there. So I think that again was a very major contribution. The fourth was the Islamic world was completely disintegrated at the time of the 71 war. What basically the type of conditions you are seeing today were the type of conditions you were seeing at that time when he took power. He called in an Islamic Summit conference in Lahore, and literally every single Islamic leader from about 40 or 42 countries participated. They came to Lahore, and you could see the largest show of unity in the Muslim world that you have perhaps up to this time not seen at any time before. So he brought, and perhaps that could have been a reason of his removal at the end. And the second big reason, of course, which the analysts today and the writers and the historians write about, is his pursuit for nuclear technology. He aggressively initiated, pursued, developed, and almost completed the nuclear technology, which eventually led to, obviously, the nuclear bomb at this point in time. But the basic technology that was developed locally was with the strong support of Shahid Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, and I believe that is perhaps one of the reasons of our survival today, that we feel secure from maybe attacks by our neighbors or by any enemy country. So we owe a lot, and actually we owe all of our nuclear technology to what Shahid Zulfikar Ali Bhutto had initiated during his days. So these are, I think, some of the 5 major contributions. We have today with us who's going to talk about his 6th contribution, and perhaps it's the beginning of his lecture time, which is going to be the economic contribution that Shahid Zulfikar Ali Bhutto had made. Dr. Kaiser Bangali is a well-known economist of Pakistan. He writes regularly in newspapers, articles, journals. He gives lectures. He comes to talk shows. And some of you here might have been fortunate enough to have attended his classes. He was with us for well over a year as a professor of economics. And those of you, obviously, who might have learned from him in the classroom were lucky enough, but those of you who did not have an opportunity to attend to his lectures have an opportunity today to listen to Dr. Kaiser Bangali. Please, Dr. Bangali.
Thank you, Dr. Lagari. And it's a great pleasure to be back with several of my colleagues and a lot of students that I have interacted with for a year and a half. It's also a pleasure to speak today on the birth anniversary of a leader who I came to recognize much late in my life, that he was a great leader. And my realization of the greatness of Zulfikar Ali Bhutto came not because of mere likes or dislikes, but out of my research. The data that I was looking into, the political analysis that I was engaged in, somehow brought out things which told me that the propaganda that has been spread around a man was not correct. Dr. Lagari mentioned 5 contributions of Zulfikar Ali Bhutto. Let me add 2 more. One is that he's, or rather, I'm adding these 2 by way of, more like way of clearing the fog. There is a popular perception that has been created that Zulfikar Ali Bhutto was responsible for the breakup of the country. It was he who said, "Idhar tum, udhar hum." Now, just think for a minute. Who takes decisions, executive decisions? It is the government in power. Individuals or leaders in opposition can make all kinds of statements. In fact, that's the job of the opposition, to make provocative statements. And opposition leaders are not considered irresponsible if they do that. In democracies all over the world, Zulfikar Ali Bhutto was an opposition leader. It was the responsibility of those in power